Terrifying would be the word. Major pain in the butt.
I remember that movie. Hey there, everybody. I'm so excited tonight to bring you this interview that I just finished with my good friend Ben Grimes. Ben and I met last year doing AST, Arkansas Shakespeare Theater. We were both in Macbeth and Guys and Dolls. We became fast buddies, and I really admire Ben. He's recently started an organization called The Breach, and it focuses on bringing veterans and the arts together. He's really focused on theater as a vehicle for social justice, for change, and for transforming the individual and transforming our communities. And I think you're really going to enjoy our interview. Thanks. And we'll get started if that's okay.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Cool.
great.
And of course, you know, we can start and stop as we as we want to.
We mess up. Yeah.
I'll be the one messing up. So tell me about The Breach. What's the genesis of the whole idea for it?
Yeah. So it came about. I was an actor before I joined the Army, and I several years in the Army. Did about 14 years in the Army. My last deployment was in 2016 and 17. I did about 7 years of active duty where I was, full-time Army, and became an officer, went to officer career candidate school in 2010, and I joined the National Guard, and now I'm full-time in the National Guard, and I just made major, so I'm
awesome.
Yeah.
That's congrats. That's awesome.
A major pain in the butt.
I remember that movie with Damon Wayans.
Yeah.
Nasty little worm.
That's right. That's me. Basically me. And coming back from that deployment, I was experiencing a lot of the common issues that veterans face: anxiety, depression, just really not in a good place. I did a lot of coping mechanisms, drinking too much, things that are very common. My wife is in the theater still, and she just kind of mentioned to me on a whim, hey, you should probably, go and audition for a show. Just go, do some community theater. It'd be good for you. And I said, oh, all right, fine. So I went and auditioned for a show, and it was amazing. I just kind of, as the show went on, and I closed the show, and I kind of looked back, and I realized that I had not been feeling those feelings of anxiety and depression for the last 2 to 3 months. And I didn't know why. I really couldn't put my thumb on it and say, well, there's the reason. But I started to kind of, extrapolate and say, okay, well, wait a minute. I was doing this production, and I felt really good. Felt very happy.
Yeah.
And that made me start to kind of research and start to look out. And I found some other organizations that were doing that. I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if I took my veteran side, my Army side, and my acting side, and I kind of combined those two, and maybe the things that I found that theater was able to help with would help other people. And come to find out, all these other companies have figured this out, and I'm just kind of late to the game.
So if you were going to kind of shrink things down to a nutshell about what it is that The Breach does, the mission, the kind of elevator speech.
Absolutely. So our mission is that we are a veteran-run organization that brings theater artists and veterans together to strengthen emotional resources they need to overcome trauma and reintegration issues. And that's really where I settled on is it's about healing trauma, and it's about combining these two seemingly separate communities that have so much in common. So much that they share in their kind of core beliefs, and bringing those two communities together.
Nice. It's really cool because this summer Ben and I were in Macbeth together, and one of the cool things about that was it's a play about soldiers, really. I remember one rehearsal in particular was like, what's going on? These guys getting together. And I was like, seems like it's like a reconnaissance mission. And I only know that word from movies and books.
Right.
But then Ben was like, yeah, it's a recon mission and they're going to do this. And then these guys are doing that. And I was like, oh, yeah, what he said.
Yeah. It's leader's recon. Yeah.
But I thought it was so cool that you were able to bring such a wealth of knowledge to our production. And it really, it was able to pull back another layer of the play.
Thank you.
Because, lots of times we look at Shakespeare and things like that as high art, and there's and especially in America, there's kind of this view of it being elitist entertainment, whereas it's really something that grew out of the shared experience of people in the Renaissance that knew war and knew death in a very different way than we do.
For sure, 100% agree. 100% agree. It's Shakespeare is such rich material for a veteran audience, and for the concept of service, the concept of sacrifice. Those things are universal to man, and through time. And it doesn't matter if it's 400 years. Those are the things that shaped us, and it's such rich material that you can go back through. And I mean, they were veterans. They served their, they got drafted and had to go fight some war just like it happens today. And a lot of times they were kind of, disenfranchised and like, oh, I don't know if I really, this is somebody else's war. And, you don't have to look very far to, find a prescription or a description of PTSD. When you look at, the Henry IV speech about why do you keep alone and all of that, it's there's just vivid descriptions of PTSD and things that are common today that we can just immediately take out.
Oh, my good Lord, why are you thus alone? Tell me, sweet Lord, what is it that takes from thee thy stomach, pleasure, and thy golden sleep? Why dost thou bend thine eyes upon the earth, and start so often when thou sitst alone? Why hast thou lost the fresh blood in thy cheeks? In thy faint slumbers I by thee have watched, and heard thee murmur tales of iron wars, cry courage to the field, and thou hast talked of sallies and retires, of trenches, tents, of prisoners' ransom, and of soldiers slain, and all the currents of a heady fight. Thy spirit within thee hath been so at war, and thus hath so bestirred thee in thy sleep, that beads of sweat have stood upon thy brow like bubbles in a late disturbed stream, and in thy face strange motions have appeared, such as we see when men restrain their breath on some great sudden hest. Oh, what portents are these?
One of the cool things that the Breach put together during the Arkansas Shakespeare Theater's 2019 season was a talkback after Macbeth, which, again, every time we get into this situation where we're talking with people that have a different experience perhaps than an actor, and you're getting that kind of research and that kind of feedback, it really enriches the appreciation you have for the art. I don't know if you want to talk just a little bit about that talkback in particular, but also some of the other activities that you'd like to take on.
I would love to. Yeah. So the talkback was really enlightening because we had some members of the local military community that had never, I don't believe they had ever seen a Shakespeare show. They'd never seen a Shakespeare play. So they saw a nice light summer romp, Macbeth. But, they loved it. There's sword fighting and, mud and blood and immediately they clued in on, Lady M and Macbeth are not sleeping, and, that their hands can't be cleaned. And one of the telltale signs of PTSD is you stop sleeping. And the common, medicine today is just fill you full of drugs and try to treat that symptom and not really get at the root of what's causing you not to sleep. So they immediately clued in on that. Had a very enlightening conversation about Macbeth and Banquo and that relationship, and Lady Macbeth, and how his rise and what that would do in their relationship, and how that would affect them. And like you said earlier, it really peeled back some layers of the onion that you wouldn't get without talking to those people. So I felt like that was really informative. And then afterwards, they came to me and said, "When are you going to do another show? Are we going to talk about it? We want to sit around and talk." And so, that's I love that we were successfully starting to build those bridges and starting to create those common bonds together.
Yeah.
And that's led me to I really in the future, right before the coronavirus kind of came along, I was really working towards doing a monthly, even weekly, if the appetite is there, meeting with local veterans and approaching text, because text is so wonderful. Take a piece of text, to be or not to be, and go through that. And there's certain things, the rhythm of the language, the breath control of the language helps to, there's been scientific studies about this. It helps to reduce anxiety. Just the da-dum, 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 the breathing that it requires slows your heart rate down. It's just like if you're learning to shoot in the Army, you learn breath control first.
Wow.
You breathe in, you breathe out, you breathe in, you breathe out, you hold it, you squeeze the trigger. And what that does is that slows your heart rate down. And so it's a breath and ensemble are two things that are so commonly used between both these communities. And so in that hope is that we go through some text, we talk about it, we explore, what is bravery, what is sacrifice, what does it mean to contemplate your life, to be or not to be. And then we work on the text. We talk about what does this 400-year-old language mean, and then we talk and we say, how are you? How does that make you feel? What are your impressions of that? Right. And hopefully we grow together. That's really the intent.
Yeah. And you're also a practicing artist. You directed Streetcar not too long ago for the was it the Akansa Festival?
Yes, it was a co-production with Akansa Festival of the South, and then also Argenta Community Theater provided the space, and then they kind of co-produced it. But it was a production with Akansa.
Nice. Can you talk about that just a little bit, about your experience directing that? Yeah.
Yeah. So terrifying would be the word. I'm very committed to theater as a public service. I'm committed to theater that says something more than just entertain. I like theater that has a message that people walk away from feeling changed, hopefully. And so I always ask myself, especially when I'm directing, why this play? Why now? We partnered with some local shelters. Women and Children First is one, and then Arkansas Coalition Against Domestic Violence. I was very, very proud of how brave the cast was, because it was, it's tough stuff. It's really tough.
What's one common misconception that you always find when you're talking to civilians and people that are in the arts but don't necessarily have the kind of experiences that you do? What are some misconceptions that you run across?
That's a wonderful question. There's misconceptions on both sides, right? So on the arts, misconceptions of well, we'll start with our Army. So misconceptions of veterans, I believe, is that they're not educated, or they're they come, they're those poor veterans, they're just kind of the I don't know. This has been thrust upon them almost like it's a draft. And most people go in to serve their country. Now, a lot of them will go in for other benefits. They'll go in to pay for college. They'll go to escape their town. Me personally, I mean, I joined when I was 30 years old, and I mean, I needed healthcare. I was a professional. Yeah, I was a professional actor. Hadn't had a couple of equity gigs, and lost my healthcare, and was like, I got to get my teeth fixed. You know, I mean, it was literally that simple. And it was supposed to be a 4 year. It was going to be, I'm going to do it for 4 years, and then I'm going to go to grad school. You know, that was the plan. And then here we are. But yeah, but you know, it you know, one of the things, so I enlisted as an infantryman because I wanted to do the hardest job. I wanted to jump out of airplanes. I wanted to do the hardest, you know, as a man, you know, I wanted to test my mettle kind of thing. But the infantry, which is the easy, you know, you're a grunt, you're a ground pounder. They have the highest test scores out of any of the other branches.
Really?
It's the smartest guys are the guys that are
wow.
in there. Yeah. Because there's a lot of romanticism, and which brings us back to Shakespeare and the whole romanticizing battle and all that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of, you know, romanticism behind it. So you have your guys that, you know, barely made it out of school, and it was jail or the army, and then you have your guys that have master's degrees and PhDs. I mean, I went to basic training. I went to basic training with a guy that had, I think it was 2 or 3 masters.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Amazing.
So that's a common misconception. The other misconception, I think, is that that everybody's mentally damaged or you know, off their rocker kind of thing. And that's you know, and I do think that, I mean, I don't think anybody walks out of the Army unscathed. I think everybody gets some, because of the way that we train soldiers. Everybody walks out with a little bit of their humanity ripped apart a bit, or ripped away. And that's part of why I think that it's so important to get them back into what humanity means, and integrate it back into society.
What do you find do you find that there's any striking corollary that you can find between the way you came up in training in the armed forces and your actor training? Do you find that there's any intersection there?
For sure. So one of the things is breath and then ensemble, right? So we talked about breath, you know, and shooting, and controlling your heart rate. So one of the scariest things you can ever do in your life is jump out of an airplane. One of the scariest things you can also ever do in your life is walk out on stage. It is terrifying, you know, and I think a lot of times us older guys kind of forget sometimes that that it is terrifying. And even then, you know, there's nights where it's like, oh boy, I wonder what's going to happen. and I mean, really, jumping out of an airplane and walking out on stage are the exact same thing. All you have to take a step. You have to take a step, and you have to trust. And you have to trust that the parachute will open. And you have to trust that the person that packed that parachute knew what the hell they were doing. Yeah. Just like when you're on stage, you have to trust your partner is going to be there, and your partner is going to, if something happens, your partner will take care of you. You have to trust the work that you've done. So trust and breath are huge, and then ensemble, which comes into that partner work, and you get through your time in the Army not because of your training, but because of the people that you were with. Shared suffering brings people together in such a way that it's magic, and you know, we've written about it for hundreds of years. The brotherhood, sisterhood that happens under duress is a bond that really you can't break. And so and I believe that is what it's acting as such hard business. And I think that we are under constant duress when, in rehearsals and in auditions and
Yes.
it's, I don't know if I got the job, and we're juggling so much. And it's such a hard life to do full time and to, extend it out. That there's a shared suffering that we feel, and there's a badge of honor that actors wear, just like soldiers wear a badge of honor. I'm in it. I've done it. I was out in Montana during that year when it was really bad. And, the weather was crazy. That we all actors tell war stories just like soldiers tell war stories.
Yeah, we're good at the war stories, us actors. Yeah, we can conjure up a tale of suffering.
If you want to check out more about The Breach, feel free to visit us on our website at thebreach.net. It's .net, not .org. And you can find us on Facebook. We have a Facebook page there. Nice. Where I'm trying to post videos and kind of create a social footprint and community as well.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Chad. This has been fun.
Yeah.